What's up YouTube, my name is Dash Glitch and we are here today with Devious Machines because I want to show you how to make your dance music track bounce. So sidechain compression and ducking has been a very popular tool since the dawn of dance music. It very easily allows you to create a lot of space for a hefty kick drum while then freeing up space for all the other elements in the mix and at the same time creating a kind of bouncy groove.
Sidechain is a technique in music production that lets one sound control the dynamics of another sound. Most commonly, it's used to make the kick drum duck other elements like a pad or a bass sound so they don't clash. Think of it like giving the kick drum priority. Every time it hits, the other sound dips slightly, creating space and a pumping effect. From subtle to more extreme, it definitely makes a track feel cleaner, more dynamic, and groovy.
So in more modern times, thanks to tools like Devious Machines Duck, these kinds of techniques have become so much easier. We don't have to route all sorts of inputs and outputs. We can literally just draw in the type of ducking shape that we want, and Bob's your uncle. The issue with traditional sidechain and ducking tools is they often end up cutting too much. So Devious Machines Duck has a really cool way of splitting up the frequencies and allowing you to create a variety of different ducking curves for different frequency bands. So we can have up to 3 bands in Duck 2, and we also have the ability to enable what's called linear phase. So I'm not going to get into the technical explanation of what this is, but it essentially allows you to filter the sound without adjusting the phase of the incoming signal. So if you've already aligned your kick and bass all nicely with the phase, using the linear phase setting won't change the phase. While the traditional crossover filters will adjust the phase a little bit, so you'll end up having to then go back and adjust things a little bit to kind of get it to sit nicely. So this is another really, truly more modern feature in Duck 2 that I think is really special and makes it particularly interesting for kind of more modern bass and dance music. See here, we still have a lot of that high frequency coming through, and we're just cutting out the sub. So if we hold shift and click, it snaps exactly onto the grid, which is really, really nice. And then that allows us to draw in these really exact sidechain curves. Okay, so just to quickly compare the traditional with the multiband. I mean, it has a nice gallopy groove, but it's cutting out basically half the sound. We're not hearing much of what's happening here. So just imagine the instance of like we've spent like days crafting the perfect bass line and then removing half of it in the track, you know, when we only technically need to just remove the sub-frequency range. It's also incredibly helpful for making percussions groove a little bit better with the track. So here, for example, we have, what I usually do is I'll group my percussions. So I'll have my main percussions, stuff like claps, snares, main hats. Those will be in their own group and there won't be any ducking happening on those. And then any auxiliary percussions, stuff like loops and shakers and other types of percussion that's not a main element, closed hats and that kind of thing, those go into the aux percussion group, which then gets ducked. And this is a nice way, here we're not just limited to doing the traditional sidechain curve. We can come in and then out a little bit, create like a volume envelope here to groove the percussions a little bit. I'm doing it to the group as opposed to on individual layers because it's just a bit easier that way. It saves us time and we can jump in and use this multiband if we need to individually create different grooves for different frequency bands anyway. I feel like ducking on the bass is such an important thing for dance music that it's pretty much standard. I'm going to leave it on from now onwards. The reason I think this is really powerful on percussions is like often with loops, there'll be that hit on the kick, and sometimes there'll be a bit of low frequency in there or something like that, and it'll clash a little bit with the kick itself. So sometimes it helps to just completely remove any kind of low frequencies from any other drum loops that might be happening. Just even playing with this curve on the high frequency sidechain element changes the groove of the percussion so much. What can also be nice is to do square patterns with very sharp curves. So we're almost sequencing like the volumes of these arts, right? And here we have an overall amount if we want to change the amount of sidechain that's happening. Say, for example, we just want to go 50%. We don't want to go all the way just for a little bit of that groove. But then we've also got per band amount. So here, say, for example, we've done too much on the highs. We can actually turn this down a little bit. So then what I'll also usually do is have all sorts of stuff like pads, atmospheres, sound effecty things, all in a single group. In this instance, I'm calling it SC1, sidechain 1, and I will usually duck those to the kick. Sometimes you may want other things that aren't that heavily ducked. For example, like a vocal sample or something that you kind of want to be a main element in the track. You can always then put that into a different group. So you're not limited to just putting everything in this group. That's not like what you have to do, because here I've also got like leads in a separate group, which will also have a slight bit of ducking different to the atmos and the sound effects and the pads. The reason I put these all into a single group is these are the kinds of things that often have quite heavy ducking, especially with slower tempos. I find myself ducking high frequency elements kind of heavier and heavier because it really creates this pumping groove. Quite a lot of ducking happening there, but alongside the other elements, it kind of really pumps with the groove of the track. See, in context, you barely notice that it's kind of getting cut out that much. You barely notice it. It kind of just creates an overall groove, and it really helps the kick to kind of stand out and be prominent and, to be that kind of main focus element. So what I want to do here quickly is I'm going to turn ducking off on all of the channels except the bass. So you can kind of really hear, you can audition the difference between like the whole track, all the sidechain elements on and off, We may have gotten a little bit too hard on the percussions now that I'm listening to it in context, but you can kind of really hear the power of these tools. I'm just going to dial back the amount of sidechain on this aux percussion group. And then a last time on and off for the bass sidechain ducking in context to the whole mix. Especially with the bass, it kind of really, without the ducking, it clashes with the kick. The kick becomes less audible, less clear. Like I said, it's kind of an essential tool for dance music bass. We also have the ability to choose any type of input. So we can trigger this via an audio input, via sidechain audio input. So like an external channel feeding into this, like you can feed the kick channel directly in here, or you can feed a MIDI channel in here. Just having the ability to trigger it via MIDI as well, and it's the exact same pattern here. Instead of repeating, it just goes once. And so what you could do then is set up a dummy channel, which is just an instrument track, and send the MIDI from here into this duck, and then this should then re-trigger. So that means that you could do stuff that's like slightly off time. So let's do a kick that's like on the threes like this. It allows you to kind of create these grooves using different side chains, variety of different triggers, triggering different side chains at different times and stuff. Here, for example, the kick is slightly off. It's not on the 4/4, while everything else was still being sidechained to the 4/4 to give it that like dance music motion. And that kind of gives it a really cool kind of breaky, side breaks kind of effect. I actually kind of like that. Cool. That's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to check out Duck 2 in the description below. And big thanks to Devious Machines for having me over on the channel. I will see you guys next time. Cheers.